Today, we are joined by experts, scientists, and people who are actually firsthand involved with this transition that is happening due to COVID-19. Please welcome our guests, Marta A. Tomovska. She is the director of the Public Administration Reform Team in the Office of the Prime Minister of Serbia. Previously, she was the Macedonian Minister for ICT and Public Administration and C-level executive in several companies in IT and telecommunication. As well, she is an UN expert. She has advanced many actions to help women get more jobs in cyber, as well as broaden the network of internet in many countries. Welcome, Marta. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
As well, we have also Dr. Vladimir Ajzenhamer, assistant professor at the University of Belgrade, Faculty of Security Studies, and a lecturer at the Master Program Migration Studies. As well, along with him, hello, Vladimir, welcome.
Hello, Ivana, welcome.
How are you feeling today?
Oh, comme ça, better.
Good to hear. Thank you for joining us. We know that this was a challenging period. And also, I would like to also welcome Professor Milan Ćirković, astrophysicist, astrobiologist, and an expert associate professor from Future of Humanity Institute of Oxford. Welcome, Milan.
Hello, welcome to everybody.
I must say that I'm so privileged to be in your company today. I believe that we can cover subjects that are quite wide. I know that all of you have participated in many panels this year, and COVID was such a disturbance, such a disruption for everything. But I'm trying to connect us all so we can rebuild and reconnect together. I hope that Marta is going to cover the government side, Milan is going to cover the future and astro side, and also Vladimir is going to help us understand security risks and security challenges that we are facing. So, welcome, Marta. We are going to start with you. Last year, we started a conversation with advancing women in cyber with Women's Cyber Forum. And this year was quite busy for you, as well as a year full of achievements, since the full past year was a job in digital transition that you have been much involved with. Please tell us more.
Thank you, Ivana. Hello to my fellow panelists and all the people in the audience. I hear some echo, but I think it is fine now. Okay, so yeah, past year, this year, which is already going to be past year in a few days. Oh my God, it's unbelievable. It has been a year already. It has been very intensive for us. For us who work in the government, it has been a roller coaster and nightmare, and in the same time, a dream come true for digitalization, for the part of the government that works in the domain of digitalization. Government had to take care about everything, including, provision of conditions for life to resume. For many people, put everything online. So we have to put almost the life online, to move the life online as much as possible, and to organize everything about it. I was particularly involved in the team that worked on the, let's say, digital task force in the government, and our let's say tasks were to not only to organize everything that was really necessary for the healthcare system to work, but also to provide the continuation of the services that government institutions were providing for the citizens. And as many people worked from home, online, we were still also working, let's say, online in the first part of the year. But then we switched to offline work. It was really strange to design, to draw business processes, to work on tasks in a collaborative manner online. But we made it, and we are especially proud of that. So as a result of that, and I think you pointed that it was a year full of achievements. We had been, let's say, selected and promoted worldwide from different international organizations as a country who has achieved most innovation during the crisis. Basically, we were the first in Europe to launch the innovation call, the call from the Innovation Fund, and to seek for the support from the small companies, the startups, and even citizens in providing response to the crisis. Because in the first day of the crisis, we were like wondering, okay, what we can do? What do we have? Do we have any kind of resources outside of government that can help us that we didn't know that we even need? Because there were companies in the country who already worked on some domains that proved to be very relevant for this. So on that innovation call, as I said, which we launched the first in Europe, we received in a 1 week time, and it was launched on the day that the state of emergency was announced, which was really, really, really quick. And then we received 300 different solutions, out of which 12 were selected and awarded, that were proved to be really helpful to cope immediately with the crisis, as we received different things related to disinfection, to let's say even solutions for communication within the hospitals, between the healthcare providers, solutions that could provide smart equipment, and the first Serbian respirator was a ventilator, was one of the winners that it was additionally developed through the sources of the fund, and it is going to be in production very soon. Not only that, we applied, we were selected one of the top 5 countries according to OECD Observatory of Public Sector Innovation, with 22 innovative solutions. One of the solutions that we have designed and developed in between, it is called My First Salary, is presented as a case study for the OECD, and OECD countries are encouraged to adopt it. Prime Minister was invited to open the OECD Innovation Conference along with the Secretary General of the OECD, which is again a proof for the recognition of the efforts we have done. There are many other things, but international recognition is important, but the more important thing is that we have done this for ourselves. We have encouraged the community to help us design everything, and all these awards and all these innovative solutions were designed in collaborative manner, which is something that we have learned from, and to continue to do this in the future, because there is no other way to be good and to have like the best innovation coming if you are not using the concept of open innovation, which we did during this time.
Thank you, Marta. Let's continue with the talk about artificial intelligence. We know that World Economic Forum has stressed that the governance of AI technology is the next thing, and many countries need to bring in legislative to adopt and to manage the continuation and evolution of technology in certain countries. Prime Minister Brnabić, in her expose, has emphasized the importance of AI and the studies, because it shows that in the next 15 years, it is going to increase the efficiency of the production up to 40%. And smart machines would, in that case, solve problems with innovations in other economic fields. Congratulations also for adopting the AI strategy as well.
Yes, so Prime Minister Ana Brnabić put the digitalization as one of her top priorities, even during her previous mandate, which was really bold, I may say, move. If you compare to other countries in the region, so to put digitalization of a country that has been known as agricultural country for many years, it's very, as I said, a bold move. But this paid off, and it is paying off. And as we are seeing the latest predictions of the international organizations related to the outcomes of this economic crisis, and the predictions that Serbia will have the highest economic growth or the lowest, lowest damage as a result of the crisis. And then if they mention that digitalization is one of the reasons for that, that makes us especially proud that we were working on that side of the story. AI strategy is, of course, one of the things that has been a priority during the previous mandate, and Serbia was, so there are like 20 countries in the world that adopted AI strategies before 2019. And there are like 20 additional countries adopting the AI strategy during the 2019. Serbia was one of them. And we have decided there are many different models about the AI strategy according to Aspire model, which means what is the ambition of a country, what are the skills, and then what are the policy and regulation and investment and research and innovation and ecosystem. That's Aspire. We have selected, we were really honest at the very beginning that we want to use this strategy to become national enabler. Other, let's say, options are to be a specialist or to be industry leader. We wanted to use the strategy to start, let's say, developing the ecosystem in the country to be able to then build additional, let's say, fruits based on that strategy. So what were our plans related to adoption of the AI strategy? The education system to develop competencies that are needed for jobs related to artificial intelligence. The business sector to adopt business models and to understand what are the new market expectations based on the adoption of the AI strategy. Of course, the development of scientific and research activities in this domain. This is a must. To adopt the legal regulation and to adapt basically the legal regulation to be able to be conducive for artificial intelligence, and of course the ethical aspect of that. So far, what we have done, besides that we have adopted the strategy in 2019 and designed the action plan in 2020. Of course, in a diverse group of people coming from the public and the private sector and from academia. So far, we have already financed 12 projects, which are specifically related to the artificial intelligence strategy through the Science Fund, out of which 6 of the fundamental research and then 6 for the application of the AI. Then we have established 4 programs for master in AI in 3 cities around the country. And then we have building on the AI ecosystem in the sector of in the private sector, and then the biggest companies, IT companies in Serbia already have their AI departments, and there are also small companies like Node AI and everything that are specialized in AI only. What is in our plan, and it's going to be implemented really soon in the next 2-3 months, it is the establishment of the AI Institute. The AI Institute, it is going to be one of the leading AI research institutions in the Southeastern Europe. So we have ambitious plans there. So we're going to have advisory board and very important and relevant foreign and domestic expert will work there. We're going to have a core team of people which have been on a very strong positions related to AI abroad, that are going to return to Serbia and to help us go through this process. And then we are going to support the financing of the AI startups. And in the next 10 days, we are launching the biggest data center in the regions that is equipped with the AI platform, where we are going to invite academics and researchers and startups from around the world. It's not related to Serbia only, to use this platform for research or for design of solutions. So basically, these are the main things that we're doing in the AI domain.
Thank you, Marta. It is lovely to hear that Serbia is on top of the list of people and the countries that are advancing and innovating. And which are the conclusions drawn from this COVID-19 experience as a country? I know that we have been really successful, more than many have expected, in bouncing back with the economy. So overall experience, can you please share?
Overall. So as I said previously, collaboration, that's a key word for me. There's no other thing that has been proven like stronger, bigger, that gave us bigger potential for development and for future growth and for recovery, as I said. But now that this we have to wire those connections even stronger, to hardwire them. So they were established, but now we have to build on that. Then agility and flexibility. That was really important. We have been really quick, to let's say because it's some point I feel that we have switched from a government mindset to a startup mindset. So yeah,
that's a good thing.
Yeah, trying, experimentation, small steps. This is good, this is working, this is not working, so we're not going to do this. So it was the flexibility and agility. Of course, the entire digitalization hype that was before, and then that we added on that, because we have the basic pillars, we have the building blocks, and we were able to continue to build on that. The privacy issue is something that it was really important during the crisis, and we have many situations where we were looking for the other countries about the tracking applications, and whether we are going to implement what or not. I just wanted to say that we have designed one. The first tracking application was ready in April, which was in the same time that Singapore application was ready. But we have so many dilemmas whether to launch it or to not, because we were worried about the privacy aspect, and so far still we didn't. In the meantime, we got like dozens of tracking applications, but still we decided the privacy is very important, and we have to find a way in the future, not only the Serbian government but all governments in the world, to take care about that. And of course, the data, that's a treasure, that's a oil, and that's not only a phrase. It is something that will really indeed help us bring better decisions and adopt better decisions in every possible domain. So this is
Thank you, Marta. Big data is definitely oil of today. So Milan, we are continuing from this Marta's comment that actually privacy issues are one of the top thinks that in this era where we are making decisions that will affect future generations, we need to think of it also as an ethical question. And you come from Bioethical Institute as well as from Future of Humanity Institute. And I remember when this crisis started, I reverted to this book. It is Global Catastrophic Risks. It was published in 2008 or 2012. And there is a part of it where you said, and I remember your lectures many, many years ago, that actually a pandemic can be the first thing that we are going to face, even though you were much fonder of possible asteroid attacks as astrophysicist. But I think that in this case, pandemic happened. Can you please share your opinion? And I can say one more thing, because we mentioned artificial intelligence. Nick Bostrom, you have co-edited this anthology with him, and he just recently published a book on superintelligence, and he credited a lot of work to you, and he had a special thanks for you. So please, welcome.
Thank you, first of all, for inviting me here, and it's a great honor, and it's very nice to be here. Listen, there are many angles from which one can approach this topic. Actually, I would like to emphasize the angle from risk analysis, because the risk analysis is a interdisciplinary, or if you wish, even multidisciplinary field, which is absolutely bread and butter of decision making in the modern world, and it should be promoted and widely spread everywhere. And it is really a pity that actually risk analysis is not that present either in educational curricula or indeed in the public eye, because actually I would go even one or two steps back and argue that maybe even before the Science Fund of Serbia starts financing AI project, it should perhaps make sort of a large thematic call for proposals from the domain of risk analysis, which should be useful from other points of view. We shouldn't forget that, well, we know, there are some ugly truths which need to be said, absolutely. I mean, we had, in Serbia, we had great floodings in 2014. So, in contrast to what is often portrayed in the media and in the public eye, those were not some 1,000 years catastrophes, they could actually, the flooding of the same magnitude as in 2014 could repeat next spring. We could, it is quite possible that we will have in 2021 the flooding which is completely comparable to what destroyed half of Obrenovac and other places in Serbia. Unfortunately, this should be much more present in the media, as of course other important conclusions which have been brought forth by risk analysts all over the world, and which actually predicted the onset of the current pandemic. It is, to be quite honest and bold-faced, it is a lie that this pandemic could not be predicted. It could be, and it was. Actually, if you look at a World Economic Forum, which is not some, obscure academic organization which is hidden in some ivory tower and nobody knows about it. I mean, it's very famous as Davos Forum, if you want. WEF published from 2008 onward, if I remember correctly, each year a so-called global risk report, in which they have basically the backbone of the entire report, which is usually about 100 pages long each year, and contains very interesting material and very instructive, not only for academics, not only for people in applied sciences, but also for decision makers, for fundraisers and other important social actors. They always have, in about, say, first 10 or 15 pages, a large diagram or figure of the so-called risk landscape. Risk landscape is basically a plot of probability of particular risks versus their impact on global society. And you can see, take a look, for instance, at 2014 or 2015 report. There are basically global pandemics of flu-like disease, similar to the avian flu or to SARS or these other, was always at the very top of the diagram, in the sense that it was always predicted to have the largest, or perhaps one of the two largest social impacts. It wasn't the most probable, since the probability density is something which is calculated per year. So actually people often confuse probability per se with probability density. No, probability density is just a probability per unit time. If you take particular year, then the probability of pandemics happening exactly in a particular year is rather small. But it doesn't mean, when you integrate this over like 10 years or 20 years, that doesn't mean at all that the probability of pandemics in toto is small. On the contrary, it is quite large when you look at a longer temporal period and the longer temporal horizon. It is important to understand that there was a failure at the global level of mostly coordination, communication, and preparedness, or if you wish to formulate it in another manner, of insurance against large risks, not really in terms of fundamental or basic science and its predictions. Predictions were quite clear, at least since the first SARS outbreaks 20 or so years ago. So this was bound to happen in our lifetimes. So there is nothing spectacularly surprising or completely overwhelming and flabbergasting, as they would say, in the current events. That's one point. The other point is that the inductive reasoning, which unfortunately governs a lot of public policy on all issues, including public policy on risk, including public and media perception on risk, and including especially communication on risk, is simply false. Induction as a sort of philosophical, or if you wish to say epistemological approach to such very important issues is faulty. It is simply, to conclude that, because on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday you found the parking lot for your car, that you will find it on Thursday, it's irrational. Everybody knows that. But unfortunately, our public policies all over the world, I'm speaking just, the entire global community is largely responsible for unpreparedness on this issue. So the global policy failed in a sense that they are just thinking along inductive lines from past experience, from, it didn't happen like 5 years ago and 4 years ago. And there are some people, especially in the media, who are ignorant and brazen enough to argue that, we shouldn't have prepared, this was a scandal. We bought vaccines against avian flu and didn't use them. No, quite the contrary. It was the only reasonable thing to do. You need to be prepared, even if it means economic expenses, and even if it means that you are like throwing something to garbage. I will remind you that Switzerland, who is arguably the nation with public policies which are most long-term looking, so to speak, has had for quite a long time, since the Cold War, instituted the public policy in which they have provided with resources, especially food, water, other resources for their entire population in special bunkers in the Alps for a period of, I don't know exactly, I don't remember, but it was for some long period, 5 to 10 years. Now, remember that this maintenance of these resource bunkers is extremely expensive, and after all, all this food and everything else has expiration date, so they are like throwing it away after 5 years or after 10 years. But just to keep them in reserve is wise beyond belief. So actually, we should all try to learn about from it. There are other examples. Insurance industry. I mean, the people are telling me all over the place, our businesses are failing. I mean, we don't know what to do. So people have what was your insurance? So what was your capital? How big were your capital reserves? I mean, before you decided to invest, to go into some relatively pandemic risk branch of economy like tourism or traffic or international travel or something like this. So
can I cut in?
So actually, and I will finish with this. Okay, I know I'm too long. Sorry about that. Since the great San Francisco earthquake from 1906, there was a tradition that insurance industry, insurance companies are ready to negotiate with other economic actors about insuring from natural disasters. So actually, we should exert a pressure, and stakeholders, not only stakeholders in the insurance companies themselves, but everybody who wants to have his business or his real estate or whatever insured should actually take a lesson and negotiate and pressure the insurance companies to offer policies for insurance in the cases of global pandemics or global terrorist attacks or even AI risks, to which we shall return later.
Thank you, Milan. Did the complexity of global society has brought the problem of less of a communication? Once you said in some lecture or your scientific paper that there are exoplanets that are possibly habitable for humanity, and perhaps artificial intelligence is going to help us dealing with a possibility of living extraterrestrially. However, also you said that perhaps those societies that we hypothetically could meet would be also morally more evolved. So it is a question whether they would like to talk to us and integrate with us or interact with us. So exploring disasters, is it really, what is the perspective from out of space? So is this a learning curve? Was this a shock that Earth needs to learn from?
Listen, I very much hope so, because we are anyway, and that is a conclusion of both Bostром's book, which you mentioned, and many other research studies. Actually, we are living in a kind of a bottleneck, so in a period in which risks are greater than usual. So this is reality. I mean, we don't have any other. So actually, we should try to learn about it and to learn to mitigate the possible effects of large risks in order to provide for our descendants, our children, our grandchildren, our descendants farther along the road in the future with a sort of a viable perspective. And this applies to all other, to basically all big issues like the climate change, like the AI risk, like all these other things which require some sort of high-level coordination. So this is the most important lesson of all. I mean, we should learn a high-level coordination, basically supranational or, if you wish, a global coordination in order to survive all these problems. Fighting climate change, fighting new pathogens, new viruses, bacteria, etc., fighting global terrorism, and of course, resolving the issues following application of AI, which are on one side immensely beneficial, on the other side they could have catastrophic consequences if we are not careful. So managing these things requires that there is no individual nation state which can do adequately in face of these large problems. We can only do that as a humanity, as a species, as a whole, if we wish to have a real viable future.
As Star Trek would say, needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. So we need to be solid, to choose solidarity as a way forward. So I think the Future Institute of Oxford came out with the number that to support complex life for about 1 billion years, Earth will 1.3 million times as many people will live as currently are alive on this planet. So thank you very much, and hopefully we're going to hear more from you all. For all our panelists, our listeners can actually ask questions on the right-hand side in the chat box. Vladimir, we're reverting to you.
Hi, Ivana.
Hello, welcome.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for inviting me for this conference, and welcome to my living room. You know,
well, it is good. It is good to visit you. So, globally, should we divide global north, global south, or east or west? Looking at the military strategies, we can see that there is an ongoing Internet of battlefield development, and Eastern US and Chinese strategies are actually devoted to quantum computing. So it is one of the next steps that we are going to step into. But for now, can you please share your views on what are the security issues currently that are pressing humanity as a whole, and also the trends that we are going to face in 2021? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anna. When we speak about the issues, current issues, globally security challenges, we can actually talk either on topic of actual security issues and threats, or trends after that. So when we speak about these problems, we had to try to theoretically frame this question, and if we had to frame theoretically the main global security challenges of the year behind us, the most accurate framework would be provided by Huntington's Clash of Civilization thesis. Undeniably updated, innovated, but still in the many ways true to the original. In 2020, we faced the heating of so-called frozen conflicts, primarily the war in Nagorno-Karabakh, but also the heating of tensions in the Mediterranean, whose catalyst is once again the Cyprus question. In both cases, we have a conflict between Islamic and Christian Orthodox states. In the first case, Azerbaijan and Armenia. In the second case, Turkey and Greece. But the Cyprus is not the only problem in the Mediterranean Sea that bears the same hallmark of civilization conflict. The civil wars in Libya and Syria continue to serve as a testing grounds for influence of the great powers, also confronted along the line of East and West division. And not only geopolitically speaking, what about political and religious motivated violence? We just thought that, as Baudrillard called it, the spirit of terrorism was behind us when the atrocities of extremists in Paris and Vienna warned us once again that radical Islamism is still a present threat, even though the infamous ISIS was defeated on the ground. But when we speak about that, not only Islam and Christianity are in permanent conflict, nor all conflicts of civilizations are armed and violent. The clash of civilizations is also taking place in the telecommunications and cyber spheres. For example, Trump's crusade against Huawei and TikTok also bears the hallmark of East and West rivalry. Even in the field of health security, this competition has become clear. Right now, the world is reconsidering whose vaccine against COVID-19 to rely on, Oxford, Pfizer, Sputnik 5, or Chinese vaccine. So if we talk about main security issues, in the year behind us, they are concerning different levels and sector of security, but almost all of them, without a doubt, are marked by constant movement of the pendulum of political and economic power from east to west and back. But when we talk about security trends, in my opinion, this question does not concern just specific trends, but rather the problem of how to deal with these trends. More precisely, how to implement a successful securitization of global trends in the time of security cacophony, in which citizens prefer to trust some random conspiracy theorist or pseudoscientist rather than the words of experts and political elites. That is the question for me, and that is the main security trend. This enthronement of political and expert elites. When we talk about securitization, in its theoretical nutshell, securitization is a vertical process that involves one-way communication between the ruling elites and their citizens. In such communication, political elites have the institutional authority and social capital on the basis of which the public perceives the state as a legitimate securitizer. This mentioned institutional authority and social capital provide elites not only with the exclusivity of monopoly of force, which is necessary to guarantee compliance to any special measure, but also with open access to extensive network of printed, electronic, digital communication resources through which the securitization message is presented. Newspapers, radio, television, now internet portals. But however, today we are facing the loss of control over securitization discourse. This issue only partly concerns the phenomenon of disinformations and fake news. Much more, this is the issue of openness, or one should say, permeability of security discourse for alternative actors, those who come from outside the circle of state-centric elites. In a traditional sense, specialized discourses such as security or health discourse are not available to everyone. The field of specialized discourse is exclusive and can only be entered if the necessary qualifications are met. For example, to speak publicly on security, you need to be the part of a political or security establishment or part of security experts elite. When we talk about the medicine, you must be the part of a health community. So this principle is what Foucault calls rarefaction of the speech subject. Not anyone can talk about anything. But these rules, just a second, yes. If I had a chance. These rules were valid in the order of discourse which preceded the digital revolution. Right now, we have, especially during the past decade, the expansion of social media and social networks that led to serious changes in the practice of political and security communications, which then opened the space for citizens to take part in creation of securitizing discourse, and thus to challenge the position of the state as the sole legitimate arbiter of security. For me, that is the main trend and the main future issue: how to regain the authority among the citizens who doesn't believe anymore in the words of experts or political elites.
Thank you, Vladimir. It was a special pleasure talking with all of you. I think that we have reached very interesting conclusions, and I believe that this is going to be a great talk that we are going to continue next year in some round table. I wish you to be safe and healthy, and I wish you to have a safe winter, and see you soon in 2021. Thank you all.